Springboks season review for 2025, folks. It was a pretty good year for the Boks, but let's go ahead and give them a grade. We'll look at some of their stats. Were there any areas of weakness that Rusty will be concerned about? How was the squad, the actual record throughout the year? And you guys can let us know your thoughts. The record itself, well, Boks came into this year as 2025's number one team in the world and finished the year number one in the world. Interestingly, they actually increased their world rankings total by just over a point from 92.78 to 93.94, which might not sound like a lot, but the way world rankings works, without going too in depth at it, if you don't follow it, it essentially gets harder to take points off teams the higher you yourself get up the rankings. And when you do lose games, you tend to lose more. So the fact that the Boks actually still managed to increase their total is a pretty impressive one. It is going to get harder and harder the further they go up the rankings. Record itself, July, they played the 4 games they were expected to win and got 4 wins against the Barbars, 2 against Italy and 1 against Georgia. Their first game against Italy was maybe a little bit of a criticized one because the Italians scored more points than I think people expected. So the next game they went ahead and nilled them. So I think met expectations. With the July matches, the Rugby Championship, they managed to retain the championship with 4 from 6. If you're looking at the log, they finished on the same points as the All Blacks. Both had 19 points, but the points difference was massively different, 57-8. So from my perspective as a New Zealander, despite the fact that we finished on the same record and the same points, it didn't feel like the same. I don't know. We felt a step behind the Boks from my perspective. Obviously, that loss at Ellis Park was one of the lowlights. 22-0 up against the Wallabies and still managed to lose that game. That was particularly disappointing. I think more disappointing than the Eden Park loss, for sure. So only the 2 losses of the entire year. They were both in the Rugby Championship. The other one was the Eden Park loss. That wasn't an amazing game. Honestly, they had a heap of billing about it, but the more memorable game of that series, obviously Wellington, because it was a record-breaking game. Eden Park would have been a nice one. It would have been kind of an icing on the cake one for Rusty to get a win at Eden Park, but I think they'll still take the Wellington result pretty well, which certainly was one of the highlights. To beat the All Blacks by a record margin, 43 points to 10 down in Wellington. It's not often you see the All Blacks kind of capitulate like that or, get put to the sword, whichever way you want to look at it. But the Boks did that to my All Blacks in Wellington. And then, putting close to 70 points on Argentina. Not many teams have been doing that this year as well. Argentina can be up and down, but 67-30 was another kind of massive result. Certainly a highlight one. Obviously, Rusty won't be happy conceding 30 because they don't usually concede that many, the Boks. But yeah, 67 against this top 6 Argentinian side is also pretty tough. So yeah, they finished the Rugby Championship. The winners' points difference was plus 57 compared to the All Blacks, which was plus 8, which again I think highlights where the gap was between the sides. And then November internationals, they played the 5 games, so 1 extra compared to most teams. The highlights, I guess, is probably the win over France. Despite the fact that you guys had a red card, a permanent red card for a large period of that game, still beating France 32-17 is a pretty massive highlight. And then the second one would be the domination of the Irish scrum in the game against Ireland and Dublin. So 2 big away performances, big away wins. Obviously, they beat Italy as well. They beat Japan at Wembley, and then they beat Wales 73-0. It was a much-changed Boks side in terms of the players available. It was also a much-changed Wales side. So I think you'd be raising your eyebrows more at the wow factor of the France and the Ireland game, more so than the Welsh one. So yeah, the record was pretty bloody good across the course of the season. The squad, I feel like you'd be pretty happy with what Rusty's doing if you're a Boks fan. We obviously had a look at the depth chart the other day with the actual minutes given to all of the players, but Andre Esterhuizen becoming a proper hybrid player. Not just him, but Jan Hendrik Wessels being able to cover multiple positions is encouraging. Rusty seems to be, he's always been doing that since the days of Frans Steyn and whatnot, but he's really going all in on that stuff in terms of creativity with those kind of bench roles. Does seem to be some reduced minutes for some of the veterans, the likes of Afaf de Klerk and Bongi Mbonambi and Willie Leroux and whatnot. as younger guys do seem to come in. The core of that 2019 World Cup winning squad, some of these guys are, making their way towards that kind of retirement stage of their career. And then, like Sasha Feinberg Ngomazula has been an absolute highlight in terms of just, like, what an attacking number 10. Like, the goal kicking still got to get better, for sure. But, geez, he's an exciting player in terms of how many tackles he breaks and tries he scores and whatnot. He literally broke Springbok records in this 2025 season. So very, very encouraging. And the scrum. Oh my goodness. There's no one in the world at the moment who's living with the Springbok scrum. I thought the All Blacks had a pretty good scrum. Like a couple of weeks before playing the Boks, we went and won a game in Argentina basically with forward dominance, but we're not on the same level and nobody is as the Boks at scrum time right now. There's been a few red cards, which I guess were a bit of a low light in terms of like Luat Diaka, Eben Etzebeth and Jasper Wiese are all getting red carded permanently throughout the season. That's going to be one that Rassie won't be happy with. Obviously, there was the Franco Mostert one as well, but that was later, I think, justifiably rescinded. Some stats. There's some very, very encouraging numbers for the Boks. The line break numbers are great. The defenders beaten numbers are great. Like any of the stereotypes about the Bok team, people used to call the Boks boring. I haven't heard that for a while. Rassie, he just kicks high balls and whatnot. That hasn't been, that topic of conversation seems to have disappeared. Maybe Sexy Sasha has something to do with that. I'm not sure, but I mean, they're scoring like 42 points a game on average, which is, I think, more than everybody else. I don't think anybody else is at 40 this year. And the Eden Park game was the only game where they didn't even hit 20. Most games it's 30, 40 plus. There's been some games where it's been a lot more. And points conceded is obviously pretty low. There's 6 games this year where they conceded 10 or less. So scoring lots, conceding few. What is the main weakness? Having a look at all the stats, it's a weird one to say, but your biggest weakness is yourself if you're a Bok player, because the turnovers conceded count is genuinely the highest of all the tier 1 teams. The Boks have more possession than a lot of other teams, so you're going to cough up more ball. If you've got more ball, you've got more potential to cough it up, but you've noticed in the games where the Boks haven't performed that well, and even the Wellington game as a kind of one-off example in itself, well, that game was not a blowout at half-time, and the Boks had been dropping heaps of ball. But when they stick, a lot of good things happen for the Bok team. So they're playing an attacking brand of rugby. They're scoring lots of points. They can still scrum you to death if needs be. But yeah, good things are happening as long as they don't drop the ball. The games where they've dropped the ball, Eden Park was another one. Turnovers conceded count was pretty high and things didn't go well. So if they can get the passes to stick, as I said, good things will happen. For grade-wise, I think you would have to give the Boks at least a big old A. I don't think you can quite go A+ because of the Ellis Park result. If you got Eden Park, maybe you could go A+ because that'd be, as I said, proper history-making icing on the cake. But still a pretty bloody good year. You got the silver where you wanted. You increased your world rankings. You stayed number 1 in the world. Your biggest weakness is, if anything, yourself, rather than what other teams are doing to you. So there's plenty of good things going on in Springbok rugby. You guys let me know your thoughts. Is A fair? Is it too generous? Too harsh? This is actually a pre-recorded video as I am currently on holiday, but we'll be doing some gradings of some other teams throughout the coming days as well. But yeah, we'll get back to URC and other club rugby coverage once I get back to New Zealand. You guys let me know your thoughts. Take care. Subscribe. Talk to you guys again soon. See you later.